Hey everybody, welcome back to our next little video about this little tractor. Yesterday evening we got her back. She's here, she sat on the trailer. Doesn't she look well? This is a TEA20 tractor, England, Model A, petrol only, 20 horsepower. Made in Coventry, down at Banner Lane, all the way down there. Now ironically, we're only a few miles away from the David Brown factory. Only over the hill there, about 4 miles, is where thousands and thousands of David Browns were made. But the odd farmer around here did prefer his Fords and his Fergusons, and that's just why this tractor has been sat in the field for such a long time. So we're going to have a quick look round it. We're not going to take too long over it, and then we're hopefully going to have a bit of a tinker with it this evening and just weigh up exactly what we're going to have to do. So if you look right in there, that is a crack in the block. Now this is a 1.8 litre petrol engine. Started off life as a standard Vanguard car engine, and it was modified to be used in the tractor. So we're going to try and repair that. Now I'm never ever going to sell this tractor. It's going to be mine. I'm hoping it's going to be my 4-month-old daughter Heather's tractor when it's running. So we're going to try and repair it using something called JB Weld. And now it just sounds like a bodge, and yes, it is a bodge. But if it holds for a few years, that's fine. If we get the tractor up and running, we may consider doing a more permanent repair. Have a look in here, and we've got loads of corrosion on the aluminium. Now you wouldn't think aluminium would corrode, but that's years and years of acid rain. Just over the hill over there is a small village called Manchester. And apparently they're right good. We've got some good football team, maybe a couple of football teams. We don't really follow all that sort of rubbish. But basically the wind blows and it fetches all their muck over here into the lovely countryside. So all the pollution ends up sitting on the stuff like this and rotting it away. Now we do have another casting floating about up the field. Whether we end up replacing this whole casting, I'm not sure. Or it may actually fill. Let's see what we're going to do. So we're moving down the back there. Oh, you hear that there? That's the train. That's the train heading to Manchester, where all the horrible rain comes from. Coincidentally, the other side, about 25 miles that way, there's the village of Leeds. So we're right in the middle, right on the very top. Okay? Back to the tractor, okay? So this is the back end of the tractor. As well as fetching a lovely bit of greenery with us, we've also fetched plenty of rust. Loads and loads of rust. So these little Fergies, they were made from steel all the way around there. Then they went to aluminium. Follow me around. Went to aluminium, and then they went to steel again. I wonder why they did that. I have no idea. Anybody that does, pop it in the comments. Let's find out. So this is the only suspension. This is probably the only thing that works on this tractor, is the suspension. That's the spring where the seat would have gone on. And if we just pop the camera a bit higher up, we can see the 3 holes, the selectable, adjustable seat holes there. So we can pop another seat on. But absolutely nothing works. Seized up solid, seized up solid, seized up solid. That's the brakes, obviously that's the gear stick. That is for the hydraulics. Everything is absolutely seized up solid. I don't even think the dipstick for the back end comes out. No, it doesn't. What are we gonna do? So around to the other side now. We've got to, I think this probably used to be part of the bonnet there. Long gone. I think the rest of it is probably still in the field actually. So that's gone. We've got a spare one though, we'll pop that on. Old distributor, absolutely goose. Can't even get the dipstick out. No cracking on the block on this side, so that's good. Looks like the old spark plugs have seen slightly better days. Now looking at this one, this starter motor, that tells me that this used to be a 6-volt tractor. We've dated it back, there's a plate up on the top, I'll show you that in a minute. We've dated it back to 1949, so she's quite an old girl, and it'd be really nice to see her running again. 1949 is one of the earlier tractors. This larger starter motor meant that it had a 6-volt electrical system with it. Okay, now we have had a look in here. Oh my goodness me. Oh my word. Well, we'll close that up and not worry about that until later on. We're going to move slightly back, look again at the pitting on the gearbox bell housing. What a mess. Once again, this is a clutch. Nothing at all. But, in fact, but, I'm going to say stick your peepers in here. Look at how little wear this tractor has had. Hardly anything. But, I've actually put my hand underneath and it's flat. So that means that this tractor has had loads and loads of wear. Loads of people have stood on this over the years, and at some point they've simply turned the peg round. But the radius arm is actually missing, so it's probably been put on the wrong way when they took that radius arm off it. This engages the hydraulics, again completely solid. Fiddle brakes, completely solid. And drum brakes on the back here, completely solid. I was quite excited earlier when we dragged her out earlier on. Come round the back of me and let's have a look at the back of this tractor. Because on there with the PTO, there's a little PTO cover. Look at that. She was into the muck about here, but there is actually a PTO cover on. So the next thing we're going to try and do is put some decent front wheels on her and somehow free these drums up. Not quite sure what we're going to do, but we'll think of something. So first job, we're just going to pop some wheels on her. We've got the old wheel. Here she is. Believe it or not, when we jacked her up, it went round. We did try popping a bit of air in, but as you can imagine, judging by all the water that's coming out of the bottom, nothing held. So we've put her a shiny new wheel and tyre on. Now we've only got one of those. These are 19s, 19B6s. No, they're 19B4s, I think these are. And we have only got one. So we're going to go around the other side, take the other wheel off, and we're going to have a rummage in the pile to see if we can find another one. Tyres, 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 tyres. Oh, there's one in here somewhere. That one! Treasure. So as I was saying, we didn't have another 19. I managed to find a shiny new 16. There were just about holes there. It's got me out of a few sticky situations as this old girl. Plenty more miles left in her yet. So we're going to pop her on. Now the nuts did take a little bit of getting off, and if I'm honest, I flattened them off earlier. So we've got a classic case of here's one I did earlier. Now without looking at how we've jacked this tractor up, disclaimer, do not do this at home, okay? We'll take that off, put it somewhere. Look at that, turns round and well, sort of turns round. Now what I'm a little bit concerned about, especially with my handy dandy universal spare wheel, I don't know if it's going to hit the axle when we put it on, so we'll give it a go. Either that or it's going to fall off the jack and splatter me all over the trailer floor. Yep, put your peepers over here, look at that. So it's touching there, which we kind of knew was going to happen, but because we're hardly going to be running this on the road in the near future, we'll just pop it on this way. Oh, like a glove. So we've managed to get the front wheels on, they turn, but of course we could say we're 50% of getting the wheels turning, but wait, we're way off because these have got the brakes in. Now we're trying to get the brake drums off. There's some great whacking screws in here with a flat head fitting on them, and are they heckers like coming out? We've tried all sorts, tried hitting them, we've tried hitting them left, right, forwards, backwards, all the rest of it. So we're gonna have to drill them out. So we started with my trusty old DeWalt, starting to drill these out. We'll drill them out slowly, bigger and bigger, until hopefully the whole screw comes out, and then we can see where we're at. We've got to try and pull this drum.
Got rid of the bolts, and the drum is still completely solid. There's two holes, one at 3 o'clock and one at 9 o'clock on the drum, and these are threaded with 7/16 UNC threads. We're going to pop some bolts in there and try and push the drum off. Now it's a couple of days later, well, it's a few days later because we've had a bit of rain and work's got in the way. We're back sat aboard our little Ferguson. I said earlier that we're going to show you the serial bits and pieces, and right in there it does say TEA. We can't quite make out the rest of the numbers yet, but we'll find those out in time. And sat aboard, steering wheel covered in bits, and I'm sat on the spring. I haven't even put a seat on yet, so it's getting a little bit uncomfortable, but that's where the serial number is, and hopefully we'll be able to get that, use that, get it registered fairly soon. Now I've got nicely wedged in just under the seat there. We're struggling a bit to get these off, so we're going to everything is completely solid. We're going to try and sort the adjuster out, which is down here in the corner. So a couple of knocks, the old trusty, and then hopefully a little bit of movement with the really small movements to and fro, and hopefully with any luck this adjuster, which is starting to move, may wind off. So anti-clockwise should wind the shoes off the inside of the drum. So I'm going to wind these off and we'll be back in a bit. We've had bars on this and all sorts to try and make it turn, and can anybody spot the deliberate mistake? The gear stick is in gear, so that means that the whole drivetrain is probably locked, seeing as the engine is locked, which means the clutch will be engaged in gear, so nothing is going to turn, is it? Nope. So next stage, we're going to get the steering arms off. We've already loosened this, give it a bit of a wallop. There she goes. Get the steering box off, see what happens from there. Now on further inspection, just look at the corrosion on that gearbox. Oh my goodness, look at that. I don't think in all my years of playing with old tractors have I seen this much corrosion, which worries me slightly. But we've got all the bolts out of the steering box. I just put a little bit of oil up on the throttle linkage there in the hope that that will just lift and ease out. Let's see if it does. Now I did struggle to position the camera ready for this lift, but here we are, just taking the steering box off. Bit of a wiggle required to break the seal. There we go. Lift her off. There's always something still attached, and in this case it's a wire. Thankfully it wasn't that firmly attached. There we go, get her out of the way. Then we can lift the box off, take it to the back of the trailer. And as you can see, well, the bottom is rather milky, but these are the selectors. So the gear stick comes in and goes in to here and slides around and move the shafts around the place. And basically she was stuck in fourth gear. All these need to be in a line, and they are not. So we now need to tease these shafts all into a line. Over time, even if you leave them for sometimes a few weeks, they can seize up. This has been sat for 30 years, so we're in for a bit of a challenge. I'm going to go and find the copper hammer. Now, with considerable amounts of persuasion, using the small hammer, we've managed to line all of these selectors up. As you can see, corrosion everywhere. So a couple of gallons of WD-40, and they are now all lined up. So we got a bit of a lever here, and we're going to see if we can get the back wheels to turn. No, probably going to need a bit more leverage than this. Back in two. Turning. She's locked again. So she's turned. Whether that means there's a load of muck in the back end. That is great. Absolutely wonderful. Doesn't sound very healthy. Now, after a bit of bar action, lots of knocking,
quite a bit of that. We've finally got this moving in the hope that we can back these off and get this one turning. This one here. So we've tried this method. I'm spending about rubbish. So I'm going to do the right thing and trimming them. What's the worst that could happen? The worst that could happen is we break a stud. Right, so today's antics, or tonight's antics, we've all got to work, so it's straight what we do after work basically. We've managed to get her out of gear, and we've managed to get one hub turning. This one is having none of it, but despite even putting that big bar on, still wouldn't turn. However, after I put that big bar on, loads of water started to come out of the bottom, which doesn't say a great deal for what the inside looks like. We've tried flattening the adjusters off, but I think everything's completely seized up. Now these are they're about £35 a piece, so this might end up getting cut off. But the pressure's on because in 2 days' time I've got to go pick up my other grey Fergie, which is at the machine shop. It's having a bit of engine work done, and as you can probably tell, I am not a mechanic, I just like to play tractors. I'm a professor of wet string, and I'm also a sodium chloride distribution technician. So as you can tell, none of those include mechanics. So we just play around. The other tractor's going to be ready Wednesday or Thursday, 2-3 days time, and we need the trailer. And we haven't got a means of getting it off the trailer apart from if it's on its wheels. So the main priority is getting it on its wheels and those wheels turning. So the steering box has come off, we've got it out of gear, one hub going, let's try and get the other hub going tomorrow. Then we can lift her up and pop some wheels on, and for the first time in 30 years she might roll somewhere, not necessarily under her own steam, that's going to be quite a way off yet, but we're going to get her running under her own steam very soon. So yeah, on to tomorrow. Hey everybody, day whatever we're on, 3 I think, and we have had to resort to the big hammer treatment. I've been knocking and banging and braying on this for ages. So earlier on we got the old D-walt out, drilled the bolts that were holding the drum on, made a couple of incisions with the grinder and one up there. It was at this point that the grinder burst into flames, and it's really frustrating. You never got the camera on when things like that happen. So after a bit more hammering, we said goodbye to the hammer. Fetched a new one out. That wasn't good enough, so we had to go with that one. And she's finally coming loose. So hopefully, fairly soon, we'll be able to do it on camera if we're going to. Oh, she might just come out. Now there is the adjuster, and that is what I have been dealing with. My goodness me. So that's sort of a good few hours of banging and braying, and we are going to need a new drum. I'm fairly sure we've got one up in the shed, and surprisingly I reckon those shoes will probably either clean up or well certainly reline. But the bonus is we've got all 4 wheels turning now, thank goodness for that. So finally the wheels are on. We've had to take the drums off. Just got 2 nuts on. They've gone in a bit further than normal because they're up against the hubs and not the drums, but ultimately we can now roll her off, and she can be ferried about, ready for a bit more fettling as and when. As you can see, the tyres aren't going to go too far on the road. I'm just going to pop the steering box back on and then connect the steering rods up and we can roll her off. Day 4, it's offload day today. We've got all 4 wheels turning.
No brakes work, no engine works, nothing else. Purely she is now mobile, which means we can put her somewhere and then get her out to start doing the work and put her back when we're finished. So we've got to get her off the trailer. That could be interesting. We've done a bit of maths and took a couple of seconds to work out that it will definitely stop when it hits the loader on the 990 just down there. So hopefully that's all going to go according to plan. Of course we're going to film it, just hope I don't fall off, kill myself in the process. Let's see what happens. Well, that went well. Now, when offloading tractors, always make sure the steering works beforehand. And I tried to turn the wheel and that happened. Didn't check. So we cannot, at the moment, until we go and cut that off, turn, well, left or right when you're going backwards. So what a banana. Back to the drawing board. Take two. Amazingly, that bolt bashed down. Later on in the restoration we'll have to bash it out. I was quite surprised it even moved at all. So we now have steering both left and right. Yes, it was entirely my fault. I should have checked that the tractor did steer before we sent it round down the ramp and towards our stopping point. So once again we're gonna have another go. Now that's it for this episode of his little grey Ferguson project. We've got her out the field, we've got her freed up, we've got all the wheels turning and moving. So what we're going to hopefully do now is we're going to pop a bonnet on her, we're going to sheet her up and just store her for a little bit. So it's going to be a while to actually do something with her, but the fact is she's mobile now. And then we're going to work out what we're going to start on, whether we're going to look at the back end or the front end first. And as the nights draw in, we may even put her in the garage so that we can play about in the garage with her. Once she's in the garage, we can take the wheels back off, put her on all the axle stands, and she's there for all to see. I'm hoping we'll do a bit of an engine rebuild, of course do all the back end as well. The main thing that I need to be concerned about is the gearbox. It is looking a little bit ropey in there. So whether we end up changing the whole unit because we've got a casting in the shed, or whether we actually overhaul this gearbox here. But as you can see, the corrosion on that gearbox is really a little bit worrying. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I am Ian and we are Swallows Ratio Tractors, and we have a small fleet of tractors that we take to shows all over the north of England, and of course we work them on our small holding as well. We're going to be doing a few more videos about numerous different things, mainly tractor related. So if you like what you see and you'd like to see a little bit more, please give us a like and subscribe, and I'm sure you'll hear from us again very soon.